Hello everyone and welcome to Mike's Gaming Gala. I'm Mike and finally we have part 3 of our Pastimes Arcade video series. Our first video was kind of an overview of everything and I gave you a sneak peek into the back staff only area. Part 2 focused on the pinball and part 3 focuses on the actual arcade aspect of it. We're talking arcades from way back in the 1950s, all mechanical and electric, and then moving all the way up through to today with the actual video game arcades. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Okay, so walking into Pastimes Arcade and turning to our left, we see our first arcade here, which is the Sega Gunfight mechanical cabinet. You each play as a cowboy, and underneath the cabinet there's a pistol grip that you can grab, and you're trying to shoot your opponent across the screen. These little cacti that are in the way, you can shoot them and they fall over. When you do hit your opponent, they kind of fall back, almost like those little toys. I don't know if you guys remember them, but you would like press a button and they would collapse and then you let go and they pop back up. And so here's a little view from my perspective. There you see the cactus exploded. It's actually a lot of fun. Maybe not the most accurate thing in the world, but it's a lot of fun. See a bunch of pinball there, but of course this is the arcade episode, and this right here is something really special. This is Atari's first arcade game. This is Computer Space. This came out a year before Pong, and I've seen a lot of them in the past, but they've always been, you know, either behind glass or you can't play them. This one you can just walk up to it and play. This is a piece of history right here. Absolutely incredible to be able to play one of these. Certainly was my first time. It kind of plays like Asteroids. The controls aren't great, but certainly a piece of history. Goal is to spin around and shoot the other spaceships before they shoot you, and I can't tell you how much fun this was, how cool this was to actually play. I will say the gameplay here is really not that great because I'm trying to play through the viewfinder of my camera, so please forgive the poor execution of my moves. I tried. Then moving on down, we've got a lot of arcade cabinets from a lot of different eras. Of course, we got Bosconian there. That's one of my favorites. You've got Ghosts and Goblins. You've got Punch-Out. You have Fix-It Felix Jr., which is obviously a modern cabinet based on the movie. Soul Calibur here. Marble Madness. I loved Marble Madness on the NES. I never played it in the arcade as a kid. Scrolling around, you've got Space Duel, you've got Berserk, and just so many cabinets. But we're going to come over here to another Sega mechanical game, and that's Sega Basketball. And all these numbers here, they activate little air cannons in different areas inside here. And you're kind of racing to be the first one to hit it, as opposed, you know, hit it before your opponent hits it. I was really not very good at this one. Michael Thomas in there, he cleaned my clock. I got a couple baskets though. There you see, I get a basket. It was fun. Not really my favorite. I preferred Gunfight if we're talking Sega cabinets here. Walking back over, we're looking at Blueprint. There was Zybots there. Mario Brothers, of course. Jungle Hunt, Turkey Shoot. Vanguard, I like Vanguard a lot. Even have Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. And then here we've got Reactor. Now Reactor is a really good Atari game. Not Atari, but it's really good on the Atari 2600. And I had actually never played the arcade before, so that was really cool to play with the trackball. And it plays really well. Definitely a unique game, even if it's a difficult one. Got Gorf, and just look at all these cabinets. And this is just one of several rows. Wizard of War, I love Wizard of War. Space Invaders, man, that's one of my favorite arcade cabinets of all time. Joust, Joust 2, Space Fury, Amadar. Amadar's a really fun game. It's also very good on the Atari 2600. We got Crazy Climber, and of course Popeye for Mr. Postile, Defender, Galaxian. This game right here, Vindicators. Really cool game. It's got tank controls. You've got dual joysticks there, and so you rotate your tank and push them forward together to drive forward. I really liked this game. You've got to kind of get to the end of each level, and it was a lot of fun. I imagine it'd be a lot of fun with 2 players as well. We got Baubles, which I'd never heard of before. There was actually a good amount of games here that I had never heard of before, but of course everybody knows Star Wars Arcade. Honestly, not the best game in the world, but just for its time, really, really fun. And controls with that yoke, and you can blow up the Death Star. I loved this one as a kid. It's got a lot of nostalgia for me, so lots of fun. Moving on, we got Major Havoc, which is a game that I quite like. And you can see lots more arcade. But we're gonna go back down this aisle here. Dig Dug, that's another one of my favorites. I've always liked Dig Dug. You've got Tapper, got Root Beer Tapper, for those of you who want the non-alcoholic version. Route 16. Track and Field. Of course, you've got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Some Mappy. RoboCop, Space Odyssey, Mousetrap. I love Mousetrap. A lot of arcades that I had never actually seen before, like Battletoads. I've heard of Battletoads arcade, but I've never seen it anywhere. Now here, for those of you who are Pac-Man fans, this is your Pac-Man section. So you got Pac-Man, you got Miss Pac-Man, you've got Super Pac-Man, you've got Pac-Man Plus. You've got basically everything you could want. Bad Dudes there, Afterburner. Got Upscope, which is a cool little submarine game. try to show you inside there. Hello, you can see me. Double Dragon. Spot. I remember Spot being really popular back in the day. You got Zookeeper. 1943. 1943 stole a lot of quarters from me back in the 80s. I love 1943. Narc. You got Elevator Action. You got Gunsmoke. A little Space Harrier. Tutankhamun Arcade. This is like a Champ Games source material area. Exterminator. Zaxxon. Ladybug. And now this one right here, this is really cool, Fire Escape. So this is an old mechanical arcade, and all that you have to do is move these little things in the middle up and down. And basically a ball comes down the top, and your goal is to get it down as far as you can by kind of gingerly getting the ball to fall down one side and then get it onto the next platform. It was really difficult, and I kept losing it off the side. But almost feels like a pinball. Like you got to release the ball, and then you just turn this valve to move the center rod there up and down. It was really cool. Off-road. Off-road was a big favorite of mine as well when I was a kid. And of course, that ain't all. This was neat. So this is a Japanese flight sim arcade game, and it feels really authentic. You don't see many of those around. I think I played one at the Strong Museum. But Pigskin, you got 720, Pango. I'm a big fan of Pango. Stargate. Just so many options to choose from. I really like this one, Space Encounters. I like these ones, kind of like the older ones that really, they try to do something different. And I like the little yoke on that one. This version of Battlezone, I have not seen this. I've seen the old wooden cabinets a lot, but this was my first one seeing the kind of big plastic thing that you stick your face into. Really cool. I'm a fan of Battlezone. Black Widow, Warp, Nibbler. Guarantee you there's something here that you haven't played, even if you went to tons of arcades back in the day. Get Kicks. I love Kicks. And you've got Donkey Kong, you've got Donkey Kong Jr., you've got Donkey Kong 3, Cuphead, obviously that's a modern one, Dragon's Lair. I have beaten Dragon's Lair, but never in the arcade. I have a DVD disc of it that I beat it by playing it over and over and over. And a little hybrid area. So you've got Baby Pac-Man, which is kind of part pinball and part arcade. So you play the little pinball game down here, and once you get to certain areas, you play the arcade up top. But of course, that's not the only one. You got Granny and the Gators. I had never heard of this one before, but it's the same kind of deal. And then coming to the end of those arcades, we've got Captain America, we've got Gauntlet Dark Legacy, some Madden, and this thing that I could never pronounce, something channel, but it's a Japanese game. And now we're gonna walk back here because first of all, I missed Turbo and Zeke's Peak. But we got to look at the arcades that were along this wall. So we've got Road Blasters. And a lot more here. Of course, you have to have Mortal Kombat. This one here, Wacko. Interesting game. The game itself is pretty unique, but even more unique is the cabinet. It's got a slanted control. Obviously, when I was doing my wide shot of this, the screen wasn't working, but the game was working. You've got APB, you've got Lunar Landers, so these I haven't seen in too many places. An actual Lunar Lander cabinet. It's difficult. You've got to kind of gingerly control, and then you've got the thrust with that big handle there. It's cool. I don't think I successfully landed once. I'm pretty good at Lunar Lander on other platforms, but this one I kept blowing up. There's a close-up of the thrust handle, and then of course you've got your rotation on the left. Rotate left, rotate right. Very cool. Moving down, of course you have to have Asteroids Deluxe and NBA Jam. Q*bert. I have never been great at Q*bert, but I will admit it is easier in the arcade because that joystick actually shows you the angles. Street Fighter 2. I played a lot of Street Fighter 2. Some video pinball from Atari. So they've got kind of the board there, and they've got the little pixel graphics underneath it. So that was neat. Of course, Robotron there that we passed. And if you want to see more of this back area, you got to watch my first video on Pastimes Arcade, because I kind of did a full tour of it. Just arcade after arcade after arcade. Revolution X. I played a lot of that in the early 90s. Arkanoid. That's your breakout game. I used to really like the shooting games. Tron. Now, Tron's one of my favorite cabinets as well. It's right up there with Space Invaders. It's really kind of a series of mini games, but whenever I see it, I've got to play. I like the tank game. I like the light bikes game. Lots of fun. Galaga, of course, is awesome. And then moving here, and you can see beside the Hercules cabinet how big this thing is, but it's Sega Periscope. And it's another mechanical arcade, but there's ships on the horizon, and you got to time your shots, and people around it can watch, and you can see the torpedoes. You see them head off, and when you do hit an enemy ship, which I think Michael's gonna hit one soon here, it disappears, and you see the explosion light up behind it. So it's really cool. I mean, it's not the most in-depth simulation, but especially even if you're spectating, it's really cool. And of course, you've got Space Invaders Frenzy. I'm sure you see these at a lot of modern arcades. It's an absolute blast. If you get the chance to play one of these, it's a lot of fun. Just absolute chaos. Get your blaster, and there's power-ups for different kind of weapons and everything. You compete for points. Lots of fun. Moving on from that, Got some Danger Zone. I like this, the monitor moves with the joysticks. And then beside it, Star Trek Voyager. Now I remember this era of kind of Star Trek video games, but, you know, having a shoot 'em, like a shooter game based on Star Trek, it's not a bad idea, but it's not Star Trek. That's not what Star Trek is about. It's not about shooting a bunch of stuff. But aside from spaceship combat, you know, what do you do with the Star Trek property in an arcade? So there you go. It's a shooter. This is really cool. The Red Baron sit-in cabinet. And I like how it has like the little machine guns there. It looks like you're actually piloting a biplane. That's a lot of fun. But also just as special is this Omega Race sit-down cabinet. Now something that's really unique about this is when you're playing and you sit down in it, the control buttons are actually down by your sides. You operate with your hands down by your sides as opposed to up in front of you. Very unique. Omega Race is a great arcade game. It's an early arcade game, but it's a great one. And whether you find a stand-up cabinet or a sit-down cabinet, you should always give it a try, and you can at Pastimes Arcade. The Jungle Safari. So I remember seeing these a lot when I was a kid. You've got these guns here that are kind of infrared, and all these targets that you can hit. And when you shoot each individual target, something different happens. And this, you know, my parents never let me play these when I was a kid, so it was neat to actually do one. So you see there, you know, we shot something that triggered thunder and lightning. You shoot that and the sunflower spins. These little worms in the log go up and down. The plant spins. Lots of little cool things. And you know, neat to actually be able to play one of these. Finally. Thanks, Mom, for the whole "you shouldn't be playing with toy guns" stuff as a kid. Wait till you see this next row that we're going to be coming up to soon. So, passing a little Flintstones pinball, which we'll glance at anyway because it's neat. We're entering a row that's a lot of older mechanical arcades. So you've got this Dune Buggies game, and you're actually driving little dune buggies around. I think it's magnets underneath that you move around, and they take the cars around with them. This here I really liked, and there's a modern version of this that I played at Pinball Expo as well. I'm not sure if I filmed it. I'm pretty sure I did. But basically, you control the speed and the height of this helicopter moving around, and there's these little metal poles that you have to hit with these wires that are sticking out. And basically it lights up, and you have to hit it. And some of them are really difficult to hit. So it's a fun game. I liked it a lot. Right here we've got Sega Combat. Sega made a lot of really cool mechanical arcades. And this one has like black lights inside it. And it's pretty cool. So you start it, and you move this joystick back and forth to kind of steer the cannon of your tank, and you press the button to fire, and it falls down. And when the tanks are up, or when the enemy is up, that's when you want to hit them. It's difficult to do, very hard to master, especially when you're looking through a viewfinder like this, but I think I actually end up hitting one here. But it's kind of cool with all these lights to make it look like the Like there's more going on than just a printed control panel. Here you've got some very interesting arcade slash pinball machines. Yeah, they were kind of weird to play too, but they're neat for sure. And here we get to some really old stuff. So mechanical arcades, you could make the argument that they're kind of, some of them are pinball based. Certainly this one is pinball based, but you're racing horses, and a couple people can play at the same time, race between each other. Here you got another two-player game, Turf Club, and it lights up to show you where your horse is. Whole pile of really unique. There's a lot of horse racing games in this old arcade section. Throwing horseshoes, spelling bee. So again, that's kind of more pinball related, but here we come to the gun aisle. So, you know, if when you were a kid and you were at the mall with your mom and she put a quarter in the thing and let you ride it, I bet it didn't have a gun on it like this. So obviously I'm a little big to be sitting on the horse, so I stood beside it and shot it. But it's a metal toy gun on there. It feels good. I mean, if I was a kid way back in the day, I would have loved this. So you get to ride the horse and shoot stuff. This right here, Cool Gunman, I loved this. So again, it's one of those kind of infrared sensor things. And there's a tin can, that gray cylinder there. And your goal is to shoot the tin can into the opponent's area. And by shooting the little infrared sensors on each of those areas. So every time you hit one, it kind of raises, there you go, and it makes the can jump. So that was a lot of fun. We played a lot of this. It's great. Some more shooting games. This one right here, of course, I've got to focus on as a Canadian. It's a little old hockey game, and you control your character with those. I didn't turn it on to play it. But then we have an entire aisle of these little shooting gallery games. Some of these are really old. They're all kind of neat. You know, by the time I was going to arcades, these weren't a thing anymore. This one here, Vanguard, you shoot those little balls and you're trying to bounce them up so that they line up into different rows. We're kind of just going to walk through all of these, and then we're going to show you close-ups of a few of them. But really, you had so many options. Like, there's some mobsters there. Some you shoot dinosaurs. Some you're just shooting regular targets. And then this one at the very end, the 6-shooter. I actually really liked this one. Again, it's got like that metal gun. And little guys would go kind of back and forth there, and you shoot them and they'd fall down. But so here's one where it's kind of just targets. I got Michael Thomason to play these for me while I filmed. And I adjusted my camera angle so you don't have to see me in the reflection. And this one here, you got dinosaurs, and if you see the T-Rex there kind of flipped around. ran off. Flying saucers, so you got the black light in here. And even some light effects. So this is probably one of the later ones. Because it was a little more going on. This is that the ball one I was telling you about. So it blasts air that then would shoot these balls around, and you try to line them up. Coming down here, of course, you got a photo booth and one of those claw machines. And this was kind of an aisle with a bunch of racing games. And I've always loved racing games. You know, Hydro Thunder is a great one. The cruising games I love. Just lots of fun here. And then, of course, 4-player air hockey. Pac-Man themed. Pac-Man Smash, it's called. And on the other side of the washrooms, you've got some more really old target shooting games. These ones weren't running. This is kind of the museum section here, but I'll show you best I can. I think this one you got to shoot the critters that are trying to steal your crops. And these ones, they're completely enclosed, but they actually shoot BBs. And then here you've got Basketball Champ. This is full properly the museum section. And there you go. Pastimes Arcade is located in Girard, Ohio, and it is absolutely a must visit for anyone that's in the area. If you like arcades, if you like pinball, it is a one pay and then you're playing all day. You absolutely have to go, and I highly, highly recommend it. It really is probably the best arcade that I have ever been to. And I've been to the Strong Museum, I've been to some pretty big places, and this one I think tops them all. So absolutely go pay them a visit, and thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on Mike's Gaming Gala.